It's my honor to get to speak to you on such a special day. I love baby dedications, but they're also sometimes annoying because babies always like my husband so much more than me. Church babies love Pastor Dustin. And a couple years ago, I was like, what? Like, if we go up to a church baby, even newborns, we'll do a hospital visit for like a 6-hour-old baby from the church. And the baby will like just kind of like turn towards Dustin. It dawned on me, they've been listening to him yell at them for 9 months. They've absorbed all of his messages. So hopefully today, any babies and any wombs out there, they're gonna like me more in 9 months. So that's so fun. I love Mother's Day. I love being a mother. My 2 kids are up here, Jude Ryan and Genesis Jessie Bates. They made me mommies. They're my favorites. I didn't know I wanted to be a mom. It was kind of a part of the deal. Because he knew he wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to like take the nations for Jesus, and I wanted to like, I wanted all these big dreams and change cities, and he was like, but we can do that with kids. And so I was like, okay, let's go for it. And it's my favorite. They are my favorite people. They're my favorite friends. I'd rather be with them than anybody else, and they know it. Their Mother's Day, Jude's Mother's Day card to me last year that he filled out in church was everything about me was about how happy they make me. But Dustin now is like, come on, let's have you pastoring. Let's have you preaching. Let's have you teaching. I'm like, what's the girl got to do to get some 1950s misogyny around here? And put me in the kitchen with the kids, right? No, I'm joking. I love pastoring. I love teaching, and I love you. But I really love these 2 right down here. So they're going to sit in here for the whole message without electronics. So I know Mother's Day is happy for a lot of us. It's so fun. Like, I have 2 great, healthy kids, and my mom is still alive, which is really special. I'm flying out to see her after the 3rd service. And so for me today, it's a happy day. And I was thinking, as I was preparing this message, that the Mother's Day after my mom passes, or Button passes, oh, there she is. That's my Button right there. It's my mother-in-law, my beautiful mother-in-law. That's going to be a hard one. And then I started thinking about all of the layers that come with Mother's Day. And I just want to take a moment and just recognize that it's not happy for everyone, and that there's a lot of things in the room, and I know that, and I honor that, and I don't want to be lighthearted about that. I just want to recognize that some of you might not have a mother. Your mother might have passed. I know a lot of people just in our church who have had parents pass this last year. That's just heartbreaking. Some of you are probably estranged from your mother. Maybe you're a mother with children that are estranged. Maybe you have struggled with your own children. Maybe you have kids off the rails. Maybe you're full of regret. I don't think there's a mother on earth that doesn't feel like a horrible mother at least once a day, right? But maybe we like full of regret. Then we have stepmothers, who are doing like a really like intense job of co-parenting. Bless you, stepmoms. We have single mothers who are doing it alone. Hopefully, if you're in this church, you've got aunties, uncles, and a whole lot of pastors helping you, because we love single mothers. And I want to take a moment and I want to honor the single mothers, because they chose to keep these babies, come hell or high water, and raise them. We honor you. We love you. Stay planted in the church, and your babies are going to be just fine. So just hear my heart as I approach this message. I want to just recognize and honor everyone's stories in the room, but I do need you to know that I'm here with a word, and I'm on assignment. And I'm not only on assignment for the happy moms, which happens to be my season, and I'm not only here for the moms. I'm here for the moms who want to be women who want to be moms. I'm here for the men. I'm here for fathers. Multiple fathers in our congregation are single parents, single fathers. And so I want to speak to everyone's heart. So although we are going to focus on and honor mothers, I really believe that God gave me a word for all of you. I love the Bible. Dustin mentioned it. I love the Bible because it is this divine, magical book. And it's full of mess, right? There is this, it is absolutely inspired. And then it's full of people that are wild. right? We've got David. We've got all of these people in the Bible are just they have so many human tendencies and messy parts. And I love that about the Bible because I don't want a whitewashed Bible. I don't want perfection doesn't help me, right? You being perfect doesn't help me. David being a perfect little worshiper on his heart and killing his lion and killing the bear and killing Goliath and then killing 300 soldiers and then getting the 700 chariots. And that doesn't help me. That just makes me feel like a bad Christian. But David and Ziklag, when he had been abandoned and betrayed and had nothing left and everybody had taken off on him and he had to cry out to God and learn how to encourage himself in the Lord, that helps me because I need a Bible that on my worst day, in my greatest crisis, in my heartbreak, has something to help me keep moving forward because I want to keep moving forward with God. My husband and I did a series on legacy a while ago. And in the series, we talked about we don't just want to be married, we want to be happily married. And I feel like this about my walk with God. I don't want to just like be a Christian or go to church. I want to know God. I want my kids to walk in God's plan. I want to hear God's voice. I want his power. I want his anointing. I want to be a happy Christian. I want to be a happy wife in 60 years, and I want to be a happy Christian. And a lot of the ways that we do that is looking into this book and knowing that there's something here that is going to help us. And I believe that God gave me a specific text out of the Bible for us today. So I figured in honor of Mother's Day, I would look at, or we will look at, the first mother, our ancient mother, and pull some lessons from her life. The first and only mother to ever know God in perfect peace. The first and only woman to ever have a total ease of life. Can you imagine, ladies? Like just everything's easy. Everything comes easy. The first woman who knew actual intimacy with God, no shame, no guilt, no diets, no mothers telling her that she's fat, no dads rejecting her. No, like she is just in perfect, and Eden is what we call it. She had it all. Her husband was the best. He rubbed her feet every night and did all of the dishes. Actually, I do not want my husband doing dishes because he does dishes like a Scandinavian architect. I saw a meme about this, and I do them like a raccoon on meth. I'd rather just throw them all in there. It'll work out. It'll all be fine. But Eve had this perfect life. And she's also the first woman to lose it all. She completely destroyed her life with Adam. And I want to look at her because I think her story will say something about our story. Because in the Bible, when we study it and when we look at it, we want to not just read like Eve over here. We want to look at it and be like, how is my story Eve's story? How do I play a part in this story? How has Eve's story helped me? How can Eve's story help me? How am I like Eve? And so that's what we're going to do today. We are going to look deep into her life. She's the first mother who had a child die. She's the first mother to have her life shattered by a devastating move. The first mother to be estranged from a child. And the first mother to experience a total loss of intimacy with her husband. And as we look at her, in Genesis 3:20, this is where we're going to start. There's this verse that says, the man, who's Adam, they're talking about Adam, the man called his wife's name Eve. This is where she gets her name. So God called her woman, but the man called her, Adam called her Eve. And this is why he called her Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. But here's the cool thing. She wasn't a mom yet. So Adam, and this is after they left Eden, and here Adam comes along and he says, you are going to be a mother of all the living. And here's a little side note for all of us. Sometimes we have to say things and speak things and declare things before we see things happen. And so for those of us who are in moments of, oh, I don't know, and this isn't turning out like I thought it would, and this marriage isn't like I thought it would be, and having kids isn't like I thought it would be, sometimes we have to stop and not look at what we see and start saying things. And Adam said this. He says, you are going to be the mother of all the living. But we're going to rewind first, and we're going to do a little exegesis. Okay, the title of this message is Eve, Eden, and the East. Eve, Eden, and the East. And it will make sense here in a minute. We're going to start in Genesis 3. Genesis 3:1. You can turn on your Bibles or it'll be on the screen for you as well. Now the serpent, oh, you know what's coming. This naughty, naughty guy. Serpent, which means deceiver, was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. So here we have the serpent coming for Eve. So you know what's about to happen if you've been in Sunday school one time, right? And so Mother's Day talk is going to be all about the destruction and the fall of humanity. Happy Mother's Day to all of us. No, we're going to get through it. The serpent said to the woman, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? This is still while they're in Eden. Here's the thing. The enemy will always try to get us to question what God said. He gets in her head. And then he goes on. And the woman said to the serpent, we can eat the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall, like my Eve voice, it's like a valley girl, you shall not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent, here he comes, he's coming back for her. But the serpent said to the woman, you will surely not die. Now he's saying God's a liar. So he's getting into her head. And then he says in verse 5, for God knows, he is setting God up to not be trusted. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. This is the translation. The enemy is telling Eve, God's not good. God can't be trusted and God has bad intentions. The fall of humanity, the reason that we're in this pickle, all of it started with thoughts. It didn't start with the prostitute on Harry Hines, and it didn't start with a line of cocaine. It started with a thought about God that wasn't true. That's where it all started, was somebody got in her brain and said, God's not right. God's a liar. God can't be trusted. He's just jealous of you. And he gets inside of her brain. And that's what takes everything down, is thoughts planted. A.W. Tozer says the most important thing about you is what you think about God. The most important thing about you is what you think about God. We can judge Eve all day long. And how many of us have bought into one of those lies? God can't be trusted. No. He's not going to bring somebody for you. Go with the other one. No, God can't be trusted. God's a liar. No, he doesn't really want you to be happy. Everything's going to be miserable. These scripts that the enemy he has no new tricks. It's all the same. He's just planting thoughts in our brains. So after this, of course, we know the story. Adam and Eve, they eat the fruit. The fall happens. They're completely separated from Eden. God casts them out of Eden to the east. Eve blames the serpent. And Adam, which is really interesting, most people think when you read it, you think he blames Eve, but he really doesn't. This is where blame games come. And this is where I think let's do some Bible diving and let's be them for this moment. Adam said, the woman, he's talking to God, the woman you gave me. I did this because you set me up for this. I know I've thought these things at times. God, why did you? God, this should be on you. Why am I in this situation when you? This is exactly what they did. Verse 15, we're going to jump down a few verses. Verse 15, so the fall happens. They are cast out of the garden. God comes to them and he declares this really strange, specific verse over Eve. And it feels and it looks like a random verse in the Bible. But if you give me the next 18 minutes, I think I'm going to show you that this verse is as important as John 3:16. Because God is coming to Eve and she's lost it all. She has nothing left. She's clothing herself. She's shameful. Her and Adam are at odds. All of this is happening, and God comes to them and he says this. He's talking to the serpent first, the enemy. I will put enmity, which means I'm going to make you enemies. I will put enmity between you, talking to the serpent, and the woman. Interesting. Why not the man? Interesting. And between your offspring and her offspring, or another translation, the right translation would be seed. So God's saying to the serpent, I'm gonna make you and the woman enemies, and you're gonna hate her seed. And then here's a really interesting part. It says about the seed, it says he. He is important here. He shall bruise your head. So he's saying this seed, the he, is going to bruise the head of the serpent, but you shall bruise his heel. Even in this judgment, even in this banishment, even like 3 minutes post fall of humanity, God comes with this hopeful promise. There is a he, and the he will come. And when the he comes, the he will make it all right. And Eve takes it. She takes it and she holds on to it. This is what enmity means. Intense hostility that lasts a long time. Ladies, that's what we've got with the devil. Intense hostility that lasts a long time. There's a reason the enemy hates women. There's a reason that women have been the most persecuted people group since the history of the world. They are mutilated, they are assaulted, they are put under, they go through difficult things. I am not excusing the plight of men because you got a whole thing of your own, I know. But as a woman speaking to women on Mother's Day, I want you to know that there's an assignment against you. And the enemy is going to use people, dads, moms, uncles, husbands, sometimes our kids, to try and confirm the assignment that the enemy has put on us because he doesn't like us. But here's the thing. I don't hate, or I'm not scared of butterflies. I don't mind ladybugs. I don't even mind a spider. But I'm scared of something that can hurt me. I don't like snakes because they could kill me. I have rattlesnake kits in all of our places. They have a lease they have a hunting lease, my husband and his brother, and I'm like, don't forget the rattlesnake kits, don't forget the rattlesnake kits. I'm scared and I don't like them because they can hurt. So why do you think, woman of God, that the enemy doesn't like you? Because you can hurt him. Because there is something in the heart of a woman. There is something in the call of a woman that God placed there that the enemy doesn't like. And it's not always kids. There's other things that he puts inside of us, purposes and things. But we have this thing with the enemy. And sometimes I feel like he's winning. Because the East is hard. Give me Eden. Right? Like, take me back to Eden. And sometimes life just feels like so much. And I think it felt that for Eve as well as she left paradise and headed east into this unknown territory. And all she had was a promise. So she is going through life like a lot of us do, moms, holding on for dear life with a promise. And she's just waiting for that Genesis 3:15 moment. For my fellow nerds, this verse is called a proto-evangelium. And what this verse is, Genesis 3:15, it means that proto-evangelium is the first gospel. This is where Jesus is first predicted, and Satan has hated women ever since because he knew that there would be a seed. Women, I'm sure you've been with me at times where you've held on to promises as your world caves in, as it did for her. And it hurts the most when we have a part to play. And I know there's regrets in the room. And I know there are things, if dads too, husbands, wives, all of us, everybody, there's regrets. There's things we wish we would have done better. There are things like, oh no, my kid walked away from God probably because we run these scripts of blame and just like she did. And we can feel that pain of, oh, it hurts worse when we have a part to play. And at some point, we have to let go of what has happened, every mom in the history of the world thinks they're the worst mom. At some point, usually once a day. At some point, we have to grab a hold to this lesson from Eve and know, okay, no, God has something else for me. We've hated on Eve. I read an article about her. They called her the origin of sin, seduction, and the secondary nature of women. We go like, you had one job. You know that? Like, Eve, you had just had one job. We celebrate every woman but Eve. We love Hannah's prayer life. We love that prayer life. Mary's obedience, Deborah's leadership. Oh, yes, the judge, Esther's wisdom, even Rahab. Rahab was, as the ELC students have recently taught me in youth speak, was for the streets. And so we celebrate all of these women. But here's the thing. Eve was the first one to have a relationship with God. And I want to look at her because I love a good deep dive just about as much as God does. So here we're going to pick up after the fall. They've been driven out of Eden. They have been cursed to work the ground. They've been cursed with shame and blame. And they have lack of intimacy now with God and each other. God puts angels up at the east of the garden. And then it says this, Genesis 4:1. Now Adam knew his wife, which means they were intimate. And she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Now, this is Eve's moment of, the word for Cain is Cain, and what it really means is, I've got him. What did she think she had? She thought she had the seed. She thought she had the he. And she's hopeful. Is life finally going to get better? Is God finally going to come through for me? Is God finally going to rescue me from this destruction? And Cain, if you know Cain, got real naughty and killed his brother Abel. So now Eve has a dead son and a son that got sent away from their presence, completely estranged for the rest of time. Cain's line went very evil. Murderers in the family, didn't love God. They went very evil. And this is the important thing about Cain, is that the enemy came to him. And it says in Genesis 4:7, Cain, the enemy or the sin is crouching at your door. He was warned. Why was the enemy crouching at Cain's door? Because he thought he had the seed. He thought he had the Messiah. Eve thought, the Messiah is here. And Satan comes for him, which he does for Jesus too, 4,000 years later at the temptation. But the enemy will always go after our seed, and not just our children, although he will go after our children as well. He will go after what God has destined for you to produce. He will go after your dreams. He will go after your confidence. He will go after your purity. He will go after your love for him. He will come after seeds. And there is something in all of us probably buried a bit that we need to see grow. So why don't we grow? Why don't we produce? Because of pain. We all have experienced pain. We stop loving, we stop trying, we get numb, we stop opening up with people, we live in the past, we obsess over our regrets. But I propose to you that the enemy knows something about you that you might not know. Because why is he coming for you? Why is he coming for your family? Why is he coming for your kids? We are being stolen from, women. And we just sit back and Netflix. We are trying to get homestead exemption on our new house, and it is a beast. I cannot get it. If anybody is here from the county appraiser's office, please contact me. I need homestead exemption. It is my home. I cannot get it. Finally, I give up. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to pay. I'm not going to do it because I'm exhausted. This is how we are sometimes with the East. The East gets so hard, and the East gets so difficult that we just say, fine, take them. Take the kids, take the husband. Just don't take Netflix, right? And at some point, we women of God have to realize that we are in a divine feud, but we also have a divine promise. And if we can rise up on the inside, like Deborah, gotta mention Deborah on Mother's Day. If we can rise up on the inside and see that there is something on our lives that this world needs. Your kids need it, your husband needs it, this church needs it, and the world needs it. And this is the place where we mostly hear that Eve's story ends. And this is where many of our stories end. Regretful, shameful, estranged, and there's another part to her story, so we're going to fast forward down to verse 25. It says, and Adam knew his wife again. Cain's gone, Abel's dead. She's got nothing left. Adam knew his wife again in the horrible, hard east of life. And she bore a son and called his name Seth. For she said, God has appointed for me another offspring. The other translation of this is, God has granted me a new future. My translation, God has granted me a hope. God has granted me a second chance. God has granted me a third chance. God is still here, removed from Eden in this bear of a life that we all live too. She was still looking for God's mercies. Women and men, we have to, no matter how hard East hits us, we have to look for God's footprint. We have to know that he always has a plan. All the way from Genesis 3:15, all the way to your kids, your future marriage, your future kids, your career, your ministry, he always has a plan. But here's the thing about seeds. They have to work themselves through dark places. I did a little research on seeds because I'm not a gardener. I have a 0 lot line. not good with grass. Seeds have to, get this is work themselves through dark places. We have to push through against the weight of being buried alive. We have to shed layers of who we used to be, and we have to grow. We know a little bit about Jesus in between. We lost him in the temple and he shows up for his baptism, and all we know is that he grew. Jesus grew. We should be growing. And the reason we stop growing is when the East gets too hard. And I'm here to call you back to attention and say, East will not last forever. We have a promise. We have a second chance. We have a Seth. Cain went bad, but Seth comes here. Seth has a godly line. It says in verse 26, to Seth, also a son was born. This was Eve's third chance. And he called his name Enosh. And look at this. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. Cain went bad. Abel's dead. And Seth brings the Lord back into the lives of the people. What did Eve do to produce again? I'm going to give you 3 very quick points. Number 1, what did she do to produce again? To believe again, to take the third chance, to hope again for the seed. Number 1, she believed again. She believed again. This is a mentality. This is a mentality that we have that, no, if God said it, it will happen. If God said it, it will happen. God is mine. I am his. His ear is not short. His arm is not short. His ear is not deaf. He is for me. He has anointed me. I am more than a conqueror. I am meant for these 3 boys, right? And as we start to believe again, that leads us to number 2. She tried again. This is our action step. Belief is getting the word in us. It's getting in church. It's getting in the presence of God. I love a good Netflix binge as much as anybody. All the Kardashians, Chosen. All of it. Love it, love it, love it, right? But at some point, if you're deep buried in East, you got to get in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, my boyfriends, my side pieces. Get in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Get in the presence of God and try again. Come back to church. Get your kids in church. Sign up for 1132U. Maybe go back to school. Open up to somebody. Maybe go to counseling. Trust somebody again. I have gone through hell and high water in the last 10 years that we have pastored this church. We have experienced massive amounts of grief. We have walked families, some of you, through massive amounts of grief. East has seemed hard over the last 10 years. I have seen East take its beating. We lost a baby. We had friends betray us. East is hard. But if we don't try again, I'm just the enemy's plaything. He got me. And I walked through the lobby like this. Hi. Bless God, bless God, bless God. Dance little monkey Christian dance, right? No, not in this church. We got to get some East in here. We got to get real. We got to talk. We got to join groups. We got to get support for this hard life in the East and try again. I was so betrayed by people. I never wanted to trust anybody again. And I stand here before with the best friends I have ever had. My husband and I are the happiest we have ever been. This church is incredible. I am happy. I am smiling. Inside, I'm at peace. Not because I got sprinkled with the peace fairy, Because I believed again and I tried again. And here's the third thing. The third one's God's. God produced again. If we believe again and we try again, that sets up the stage for God to produce again. At the end of the day, it's always God. Family line, Eve dies, Seth dies. Seth's son dies. Noah comes down the line. Noah dies, Abraham dies. Joseph dies, David dies. Solomon dies, they all die. And we're gonna fast forward 4,000 years. And 4,000 years after Seth, this sweet third chance of a baby that brought in a little revival in ancient Mesopotamia, we have a baby born in a little off the map town in Bethlehem. And we have one of the greatest historians in the first century, except for maybe Josephus, a doctor named Luke. And he recorded this baby's history, his genealogy, his line. And you know him as Jesus, as did Luke. And Luke decided it was important enough to record where Jesus came from. And when Luke wrote his book, he started it with, this sounds like a good idea to write this down. It sounded like a good idea to me to put all of these random names in this book. And here we have Luke 3:23, he starts, now Jesus, the 3:15 he, the Redeemer, the one that Eve thought Cain was. Now Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. He was the son, so it was thought, I love that. So it was thought of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Mathat, the son of Levi, the son of Melchi, the son of Janiah, the son of Joseph. It goes on and on, all the names. They seem so boring and unnecessary, don't they? It continues for several generations, and then we're gonna pick up at verse 37, the line of Jesus, the seed, the son of Enoch, the son of Jared, the son of Mahalalel, the son of Kenan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. Usually we hear Jesus as the line of David, right? Or the tribe of Judah. But Jesus didn't just come from Mary. He came from Seth. He came from Eve. Because Eve tried again. Because Eve believed again. The symbol of Eve's second chance eventually led to the perfect son, whose blood, it says in Hebrews, spoke a better word than her dead son's Abel. And it said, and came to crush the head of the serpent and offer us all another chance. And we got that. Mary got that. David got that. Seth got that. But Eve got that. She tried again. So I just want to speak to every soul in the room. They might feel like East is just too much. And I just want to say, oh no, there's always a plan with God. Will we have Cain and Abel moments throughout our life? Maybe children, yes. But for people who walk with God, there is always a Seth waiting. God always has a plan, and there is always a Seth waiting. Dr. Maiden says, if it's not good, God's not done. If it's not good, Mom, God's not done. If it's not good, Father, God's not done. If it's not good, kid, who don't have loving families, it's not done. God always has a plan, but it will always take participation, and I don't love that. I'd rather him just sprinkle me. But as we participate, he shows up on the scene, and if he will do it for her, he will do it for me.